Okay, hello. Ah, ah. Hi, my name is Pangoria Fallstar, and this is an introduction stream. Welcome to 2023. It's so good to have you here. I am a writer, a dungeon master, and a VTuber. And most of the things that I am going to be focusing on is the work that I've put into my campaign, uh, my personal Dungeons and Dragons campaign for the last 6 years, and it's going to be the things that my players have loved, that I have loved as a dungeon master as well, that I would like to share and have other people be able to have access to it, because there's a lot of really unique things that we do in my campaign that have been a lot of fun, and I want them to become common occurrences across the landscape of tabletop RPGs. So that way, if I join another campaign as a player, it'll be happening there, and I get to have it as a player. Because I would love to have myself as my own dungeon master. Because I push so many things out to players. So, um, let me go into an intermediary screen here while I set up a um, panel for the website that I've created for my players. One a moment, please. Boo be doo boo be doo boo be doo boo. La da 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 da. Thank you for holding on and waiting while I do this thing right here. And we want it to go well, we want it to do well, don't want it to not work. Ha ha, I want you to see the things that I've done. And I think they're pretty neat. La da 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 da. Welcome to the waiting room. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Welcome to the waiting room. You're just gonna wait for a little bit. La da 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 dee da. And let's make sure that this will work out in the end. And that is what I am about. Ba-da, waiting, da 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 da. I'm waiting, la da 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 da. I'm waiting, la di da 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 da. Da 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 da. La da 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 da. Waiting. Waiting, 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 waiting. Thank you for waiting and waiting and waiting. A lot of things involve waiting. La da 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 da. We're waiting a lot. We're waiting a little bit. Waiting a lot. Waiting a little bit. What are we waiting for? A little bit more. That's what we're waiting for. Just a little bit more. That's what we're waiting. That's what we're waiting for. 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 Let's see. We don't want this. We want this. We don't want this. We want this. We don't want this, we want this, and that is what we are doing. La di da 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 da, la di da 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 da, la da 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 da. And how do I tell this to transition? Boop. Okay, I think we're back. Meow. All right. Okay, so awesome. All right, looks like things are working. So I created like I said, a whole website for my players, and I don't know how well this is translating up here. Let's get you to okay, and let's try going 150% on the Zoom. Okay, so here it is, the Children of Lost Star campaign. Children of Lost Star is how do I put this? It's a kind of campaign world where the previous campaign world had ended in a disaster, and everybody had to flee to other worlds. And the last bastion surviving the world, the last god that remained behind was Bahamut, sorry, and Bahamut was fighting off the Taras, but because so many people had been rescued and saved and taken off of the plane of existence, the number of worshippers that worshipped him had diminished, and so he lost his godhood, and he's fighting to like save the last few people and try to kind of like save what he can of the world that's like also being corrupted from the inside out by the evils of the Lich, and he fails. He falls, and the things that he was fighting, I mean, he kills them, but he also dies. The last few remaining people that stayed behind stored what knowledge they had into a library, but there wasn't enough people to continue civilization, and they died out. There, they purposefully killed, buried themselves out at sea, and their DNA mixed with the corpse of Bahamut, and over millennia, they a new life spawned, and a new species came out, which in our campaign world we label as the humanoids the player characters get to be. And eventually they learned how to read and write, and they discovered the ancient civilizations, and some of them figured out how to bring back the world, the parts of the world that were locked away. And then you forward that civilization 1,000 years, and that is kind of where the campaign started. Our campaign is like 1100, 11 or 1112 or something like that. I think we're finally at 1113, and the that's the world that my players are playing in. It's been a really fun campaign so far, because the caveat that I gave them was, you are tasked with finding these cursed objects, these cursed artifacts that contain pieces of the world that have been locked away, that have been developing and existing on their own and as like pocket dimensions, and when you release them, they reintegrate into the world and rewrite history so that they're always there. But the biggest issue is that they're not necessarily releasing worlds where they originally were. So there's like continent shifts and concept changes and a lot of different things. One of my favorites is that there's a section of the world where there is an island where there is a cracked skull, a giant cracked skull, and then on another part of the world, like days and days and days away, is another mountain that has a huge statue that connected to that skull, and so things like that have been happening in the campaign because of this. It's a lot of fun. So I did a bunch of like homebrew rules and the campaign, mostly because of the attitudes of some of the players that that had joined, because 5th edition, as you know, has this kind of thing where it doesn't matter whether you heal somebody or not. All that matters is that you can heal them before they take the 3 death save fails. And so the player would often go like, well, I don't need to heal you until you drop to 0. And then I'll heal you. And look, you absorbed like all that extra damage that didn't kill you. And, my healing before wouldn't have prevented all that extra damage. So you would have died anyway. So ha ha ha, this is the perfect way to heal. And 5th edition has a serious problem with this. And so I really wanted to convince players to heal more often. I did this by allowing bonus action healing potions with a full action healing potion healing for the maximum of the healing potion. And then I discouraged the letting them drop to 0 hit points by adding doom conditions, lingering injuries, and a few other things. So let's take a look here. I have short rest and long rest changes. Short rest, I did 10 minutes to accomplish a short rest. You cannot be casting a spell or a ritual or doing activities such as investigating or researching or walking. Conversations are allowed. Abilities and spell slots that recover on a short rest only recover once per hour. Cat nap spell reduces a short rest to 1 minute. Oh, excuse me. You can spend only 1 hit die for every 10 minutes of a short rest, unless some other ability allows it. This is so that way you can take a 1 hour short rest, spend 6 hit die, but later on you can't just spend 20 hit die on a short rest. It's just one of those things where it makes the timing of things important, but also not to punish people from doing short rests. Multiple short rests within the same hour only allows for additional hit die to be spent. And then for long rests, I have a different long rest than what is canon. You recover spell slots at a rate of 1 spell slot per hour resting, and you recover all spell slots of that level. So, for example, 3 hours long rest recovers all your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd level spell slots, and only spell slots 5th level or lower can be recovered this way. Spell slots recovered this way only do so once per day and require a full 6 hours of sleep to reset. Recover 1 hit die for every 2 hours of a long rest, and you can spend that hit die to recover hit points during a long rest. And abilities that recover on the long rest require a full 6 hours of sleep. Standing guard or taking watch for part of the night would not allow for this. So, and then the important part there is that you need to have 6 hours of sleep to recover the long rest abilities. And it forces the people who have those long rest abilities to have to take 6 hours. So you have to split up early and evening shifts for things like that. Or you have to have somebody who is like coffee locking it and doesn't have any long rest abilities to recover or something. Spell slots of level 6, 7, or 8 require 6 full hours of sleep. 9th level spells require only cantrips to be cast for 1 week to recover the spell slot. I've only ever made it to 9th level spells once during the campaigns, and quite honestly, it's not that it's that terrible of a thing. It just the last wizard that I had that had the 9th level spell, the guy just kept cheesing everything, and I'm like, dude, stop cheesing things. He's like, oh yeah, but you're giving me this week, so I'm gonna be able to have this much of this and this much of that, this much of this, and I'm like, yeah, can you just stop? Please stop. Okay. Dropping to 0 hit points as consequences. The Doom condition adds a death save fail to when you drop to 0 hit points. Doom is a curse that can be gotten rid of with the remove curse. So Doom condition is something like if you enter the domain of a really powerful dragon, the dragon applies 3 levels of Doom to you, which means that if you die to that dragon, you're just out. You have to be revivified. You just can't be healed back up. And weaker dragons would have 2, and then 1, and then none, and or not none, and then they have to apply their fear to apply 1, and then they have none, etc., etc. So let me tier up kind of like dragons and powerful creatures like that. Lingering injuries, failing death save. If you fail a death save when you are brought back up, it could mean that the thing that put you down actually caused some serious damage to you in a way that would restrict your combat effectiveness. Roll on the lingering injury table below. So if you just got knocked down, it didn't even come back to you, and you didn't have any death save fails, you roll a d20 and you're like, oh cool, I just got a scar. You look cool. Or you have trauma where you're afraid of the thing that killed you for a bit, but it's really easy to get rid of. It's just a DC 10 insight check. And there's but yeah, it doesn't it's like you get to check when you see them again. So during combat, you get a lot of checks. You have to have a really long series of failures, and then at the end of the hour, you kind of get over it, or after 24 hours. So you get if you're no longer fighting it, you would have 24 checks, and then you'd have a bonus check. Well, not even 24 because it's not while you're sleeping, but you get the idea. You'd have a lot of extra checks. Death save fail. If you have 1, you get damage around the eye. I changed things from being actual eye damage to damage around the eye because of one of my players. Any kind of eye stuff was a big no for them. So you receive a -2 to any skill check requiring vision, and your attacks suffer a -4 penalty, covering your eye with a DC 10 medicine check using the healer's kit use, and you take a long rest will treat this effect. Sprained ankle, your speed is reduced by 10 feet. You get a -2 on any skill checks requiring movement, and you have to set the ankle. An inflamed knee, you must make an athletics check each turn to remain standing, and get a -3 on any skill checks requiring movement, and you must brace the knee and take a long rest. Sprained wrist, you have disadvantage on attacks using the hand that has a sprained wrist. Your armor class bonus from shields is reduced by 1, and you have to succeed a DC 10 dexterity check to cast spells using somatic components. And then you must set the rest with a DC 10 medicine check using the healer's kit use, and take a long rest to treat this effect. Then you have the scar, and then you have your trauma, and then nothing. So a 50% chance of just nothing happening, and another 25 of having something very minor happen, and it's only a 20% chance of an actual problem happening. Then we have 2 death save fails. As you can see, the range has doubled for things here. So now you have damaged forehead, which is -5 on any skill checks requiring vision or hearing, and your attack and spell attacks have disadvantage. And it's a little bit of a tougher DC, and it requires more use. And then you have to do a healing spell after they have fully recovered their hit points and taken a long rest. So the idea here is that this is the kind of damage that doesn't just get healed up by the magics, and it takes extra effort to heal up. So that broken foot, speed is reduced by 10 or by half, whichever is the greater reduction. And then you get a -5 on any skill checks requiring movement. You get a broken leg where you're unable to stand. You get a -10 on any skill checks requiring movement. Your movement is reduced by 5 feet of crawling, and you're unable to move over difficult terrain. And then broken hand, you're unable to attack with a weapon using the hand, and you're unable to cast spells that require somatic components. You're unable to hold a shield, and if a shield is strapped to your arm, the AC it provides is reduced by 1. You must set the hand, blah blah blah, so all that's the same. You have the scar here, you have the trauma, and now it's only a 15% chance to get away with absolutely nothing happening. Now, 3 death save fails. This is the Revivified Able. That means you died and somebody had to revivify you. This has a big a DC 15 check, 3 checks. You need to do a greater restoration or the like after you have fully recovered and take a long rest. So this is like some high-end stuff. This could end a career of an early level character. Same thing, missing foot. You would need like a regeneration spell or potion, and give it 24 hours. You have to prepare. You have to prepare the spell, do a greater restoration or the like, after fully recovering. A missing limb, arm, or hand, where you just are missing the. You're just missing like that portion. Same thing there. Then you have the scar, you have the trauma, and only a 5% chance of avoiding taking any issues from being revivified. And again, this is to encourage the players to not let their allies fall. Quite often, I've had players just go like, "And you're gone." So let's see here. Let's go back 1. And we have conditions. I did some custom conditions. Let's see. These are wordy and difficult. The only reason that I don't recommend some of these right now is just because they are very complicated. So these are advanced conditions, advanced to keep track of, advanced to apply, and you have to do extra steps to get them to work. Monsters don't naturally do it, so you have to have monsters that can and kind of just add the ability to do these to the monster based on some of the other things that some of the other kinds of things that the monster does. Berserk is being able to put somebody to go into a blind rage. This is a very powerful monster condition where the monster gives it to an ally so that the ally just starts attacking, so that the player starts attacking their allies. You have bleeding. This one is one that kind of works with my Doom condition, where I use bloodied, which is a 4th edition term, where the creature, the player, is at half, and if you deal a critical hit to a bloodied target, they start bleeding. Bleeding applies Doom condition to them, and then that way, if they get after like 3 rounds, they will die if they're reduced to 0. There's no like death saves. Players will often like knock out an enemy. If you knock out somebody who's bleeding, they will die. Bloodied is if their hit point max is half. The condition ends if they recover enough to be above half. Burning is like if you set fire to the enemy, they start taking 5 fire damage until they end the condition. It can be hindered by rain or taking an action to put out the flames. And you can just automatically apply it to like things that are like fireball spell or anything that deals fire damage that's level 3 or higher. Creatures immune to fire damage or immune to a condition. Then I have the burn condition. This is one that I want to change the name of because getting burned, what it essentially does is if you deal 3 dice of damage, that's maximum. That's not melee damage, or not martial damage, like not physical, like slashing, piercing, or bludgeoning. And on at least 3 dice on the same attack, then the creature is considered bloodied regardless of their health, and they're vulnerable to the damage. So if they're resistant or immune to the damage, they can't be burned by it. And it takes a medicine check and a short rest to kind of end the burn condition. So this is like Dragon's Breath that, you have like 3 dice that deal maximum. Now the player is vulnerable. But it's also like magic missiles. If you deal maximum damage, you roll that 4 on a magic missile. The magic missiles deal maximum damage, and then that creature is now vulnerable to force damage. Doomed condition allows for less restoration to remove 1 level of it, and remove curse to remove all levels of it. And because it's a type of naturally occurring curse that stacks and makes it so that when a player drops to 0 hit points, they have a death saving fail equal to their doom level. Once that happens, the doom disappears as well. It can be triggered from failing a fear save or getting a bad rating on a fortune teller's shop. So this makes fear effects more powerful. So along with the frightened condition, now it doesn't, not every fear effect does it, but a powerful enough fear effect will. It just allows me to go like, oh yeah, this is a naturally scary thing. And so it does Doomed. And I think that was all of the new ones. I still have the old exhaustion rules. I haven't modified it to the D&D 1 yet, but I probably will be doing that. Because it just levels out a little bit more. So for combat purposes, I have untrained mid-combat skill checks and trained mid-combat skill checks. So the thing that this does is that if you're untrained in a skill, then it takes a full action to do. So athletics checks, acrobatics checks, stealth, although that's not like necessarily taking the hide action, although a hide action will allow you to roll a stealth check. But I then have the same thing but as a bonus action if you're trained in it. So which is why the stealth is not specifically the hide action. Anyways, and then I have trained mid-combat skill checks. So when you take your full action to do a trained skill check, you're able to use the passive skill level with the skill for the check instead of rolling for it. So this passive is calculated at 10 plus proficiency bonus plus ability modifier for that skill. For example, an Arcana check can be 10 plus 3 for 16 for a 7th level wizard with 17 intelligence. And so this lets you take a passive skill to, if you're like, okay, it's a DC 15 for you to do. You can do it as a bonus action and maybe not get it, or you can take your full action and get it. Bonus action skill checks. When a skill check is being asked that you're able to gain an advantage, this is a self-help bonus action. This is acrobatically attacking an enemy, athletically running across a wall to attack at a different angle, insight into the enemy pattern, investigate a weakness, intimidate an opening in their defense, etc. So you get to do a bonus action as a self-help so that you can gain advantage on the attack. This is just a way of allowing them to use resources if they need to try and guarantee an attack in. And then there's certain checks that are free, like if somebody's opposing your skill, stealth versus perception, grapple versus athletics, acrobatics. If the athletics or acrobatics is just part of a movement or attack, if perception as part of a movement or attack, animal handling as a reaction to sudden things that an animal does, like for mostly for living mounts, insight and survival for when things happen requiring a check for it, and then someone is casting a spell. So I allow players to do an Arcana versus the 10 plus the spell level plus the ability score modifier of the caster to be able to tell what the spell is that they're casting to decide whether or not they're going to counterspell. And it's important for that to be a free skill check, or else they wouldn't be able to use their reaction for it. Then I have like a quote from the rules of the game about interacting with an object as a free action, and then a list of general things that you can do that are just part of your movement and doesn't take up an action to do necessarily. We use proficiency dice, which is an optional rule that you can find in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Essentially, you just use the dice that's twice what the bonus is. So levels 1 through 4, you normally have a +2 bonus. You just use d4. And it is not that great for people who rely on expertise to be perfect. But it does let you have expertise be your passive. So let's see here. Advantage. I allow for double advantage and double disadvantage on attack rolls because of the proficiency dice. Double advantage means that you get to roll advantage on the proficiency dice as well. Skills will stack advantage, but proficiency dice only gain advantage if you have expertise in it. So you never get advantage on a skill if you don't have expertise in it. Health potions, as a bonus action, you drink a health potion, and if you take the full action, you get the maximum amount. And then I got the unarmed strike from D&D 1 for the grapple and shoving as part of that. Let's see here. I have social events, which is its own kind of thing, and then wealth. So, players are problem solvers in my campaign, which is a job. People tend to support those who are defending villages with resources and understand that the training you do and the vigilance you keep is work. Because of this, it is easier to request favors, supplies, and resources that don't put people out. While gold can be used for services, it is most commonly used for trade with those who are outside of the civilizations, trading with giants, hiring people for services, etc. Cities pay out this gold to workers so that they can trade outside the city, and to offer as tribute to the great carnival and things like that. Cities also take in gold that problem solvers find in the labyrinth to distribute to the people, and to offer as tribute to Malistraz the Lifebender. And then traveling merchants. Different communities outside of Bahamut and Serenity and even Badajana will often send out a merchant that travels the roads and sometimes visits towns and cities. Each value gold differently, even among each other. So, and that's kind of like the base homebrew rules that I have. Character building. I have a bunch of custom feats that I created for the characters. The players use an element system that I created. It just gives them little bonuses. I did a whole thing with background ranks that is based on... I have a rank system that's based on, like, getting the storyline goals done. And so I have kind of like 10 storyline goals prepared for the whole adventure. I said, here's 10 things you need to do. In this case, here's 10 cursed artifacts you have to release. And every time they release a cursed artifact, they gain a rank, and the rank gives them different abilities depending on what kind of background they have. I have a stud system, which allows them to kind of fill in gaps on what their characters can do. I have weapon techniques. Weapon techniques is one of the things that I have written up and is for sale on my copy, and it lets you use special techniques, bonus proficiency times per encounter. Short rest lets you reset it. Actually, not even short rest. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what the whole point is with the encounter, is that the short rest kind of resets your encounters. Again, this is very much like 4th edition. This is why I do the 10-minute short rest. But it lets you do things like give up advantage to do a different kind of attack, or if you miss with a nat 1, to take that fumble into a success, but not as effective as it could have been. And I have this for all sorts of things, including spell focuses and all sorts of other things, and that can be found on my coffee page. Races and lineages. I actually have the players vote for what like, I guess it's species now. What species, what races were in the game, and then I have the different locations and who are typically there, where they would like be coming from that area, and other places where they could be, and so the player can like get those and see like, oh, all right, I'm a Genasi and I'm from Elefa, and you can go through and kind of get the abilities there. So yeah, there's just a lot of different ones. I even have my werewolf lineage that I put in as a coffee. And then let's see, and then let me show you my background rank. So this is one of those things where I was really proud of it. So this here, a lot of this is taken from how D&D 1 builds out your background. This is new to how I was doing it, but this is the how I had it before. So you had a, like, for example, your academic background, you can, like, that would be like an anthropologist, archaeologist, or sage. And at rank 0, this is when you start, you, like, one of the things that the players have is you gain access to city maps, architecture plans, and like from a city official. The plans might not be accurate with the current state of things are in. This only covers maps of built structures, though this might give you knowledge. Using this knowledge gets you in trouble with the law. You'll have your access revoked along with other problems. This might seem familiar to some people, depending on which books you got, but I was, you borrow is what you do. Then rank 1, they get the shocking crash cantrip. So this is just like, I don't care what your class is, what race, you just like, here's shocking rasp. Rank 2, you get to choose one of these spells, and you just get to have it. Rank 3, their elemental bonus goes up by 1. That's its own thing, like I said earlier. Increases their attunement slots by 1, and negates the magical draw of potions from mana devourers. This is a limit that I have, where if they carry more than 10 magic items, there's a 1% chance, cumulative, amongst all players, to attract mana devourers. They're creatures that, when they run up, when they do an attack, they attack one of your magic items and drain the magic off of it. This is mostly designed so that players don't carry their entire armory with them. Really want to push them to have loadouts, so in their home base they can keep things locked away and secure, because their stuff is like in subspace pockets and things like that, so that But when they're traveling, they should really be careful about not carrying around too many magical items and just really load out for what their adventure is. Um, rank 4, they get to produce Flame Cantrip. Then they get a second level spell. Rank 5. Rank 6, their elemental bonus goes up to +1. That actually totals their total bonus to 4 at this point. They get another attunement slot increase. Artificers get these as well on top of their other enhancements, and it negates the magical draw of scrolls from Mana Devourer. So now, both potions and scrolls, they can carry as many as they need. So it lets them, kind of gives them way to kind of enhance that. Rank 7 to get the Elemental Manipulation cantrip, because there's a heavy base on like having elements as a thing you can control in my campaign. Then they get a third level spell that they can choose to cast once per day. And then they get a fifth level spell. And by rank 10, they should be near level 20. They get to choose Intelligence, Charisma, Wisdom, and increase it past 20 and get +2 to that ability. So this is like academic. So I have the same thing with Athletic, where, you know, they get different, abilities, different background things. And this is really, instead of them taking the background, instead of taking like Inheritor or Knight of the Order, instead of taking that background, you are taking this, and it's more to like you could, like, they can take those backgrounds, but a lot of times it doesn't fit too well in what my campaign is doing. And so this is more of a way to take all of those backgrounds and put them all into one thing. So, criminal backgrounds, law enforcement, military backgrounds, hermit backgrounds, helper backgrounds. It's all very genericified a little bit. And they all have different abilities, different things, different spells that they get. I have my elemental manipulation cantrip here, which is a transmutation cantrip that has an action, casting time, a range of 10 feet, target see text, components verbal, somatic, and lasts 1 hour. And essentially, you get a cantrip that deals 1d6 damage of a type based on your element. I have a 16 element system that the players randomly get, and you control as a general effect with an action. A creature must make a saving throw when it moves into the affected space for the first time on a turn, or ends its turn there. The saving throw type is based on the element. Things you can do as an action with your element. This is a non-exhaustive list, and things listed do not work with all elements. So, like making the 5-foot cube difficult terrain using your element. Change the color of how your element appears, either with a shape or design or message on it, covering the 5-foot area. Change the direction your element is moving in, causing it to go faster, slower, reverse, etc. Shape up to a 5-foot cube of your element. Manifest your element in a 5-foot cube. The damage increases to 2d6 at 5th, 3d6 at 11th, 4d6 at 17th. And so the saving throws you get is like, if it's fire, it's a dex save. If you're an earth element, which deals thunder and force damage, it's a dex save, and go through all the other ones there. And then, of course, I got the languages. Borrowed this from the one D&D UA as well. So these are all the different kinds of, this is like a non-exhaustive list, to borrow what I had said earlier. Let's see here. World building. I have like a list of the gods, warlock patrons. So warlock patrons, so if you're going to be a certain kind of warlock, like fathomless, then your warlock patron is Namorado, who desires to swim freely and wants shiny treasures and hates the Baron, which is another another warlock patron, and he hates sunlight. And as you gain preference with your warlock patron, he'll give you things, but you can just become friends with a warlock patron and kind of get these as well. So this is you kind of like automatically and more easily get things if you're a warlock, but you don't have to be a warlock to get these things. Um, World build. So same thing with like the gods that I have. Um, and I don't have all the gods written out. I specifically made Asmodeus, Iron Mouse be Asmodeus in my campaign. I'm just like that. Um, but you have, like, let's say Shar here. One of my players, they don't really understand the alignment system, so I use Magic the Gathering symbols to kind of represent what the um, what the kind of like the alignment or what the values are for a given god. Um, I have the story of Shar as far as it pertains to my world, her influences, her goals, her relationships, what worshipping her is like, um, how you can gain piety and lose piety. Now, piety system is from Mythic Odyssey of Theros, and I borrowed that as well as the levels of devotion here, which I then also used in the Warlock patrons. Um, and so it gives you the access to different things, and I have a hidden because what the high piety stuff was before was the breaking through of the stats, and I have that as part of the background. So this is going to be something that's going to be special based on what the players do at that point. The group patron. This is essentially the problem solver sanctuary, and what it does for the players. Um, you can kind of like get information on group patrons. I think either in the Ebron campaign guide or Acquisitions Incorporated. This particular one is going to be changed because we've started using Acquisitions Incorporated in the campaign as well. I have a custom calendar. I have like the months and the seasons, which months are part of the seasons. I just have it counting up as a 12-month calendar, and it's different ways and different languages of saying things. So like each, duo, tres, pira, cinc, seis, sept, octo, novo, deci, dis, ons, and dodeca. And then I also have the days of the week: Lunadi, Twilighty, Lunadi, Twilighty, Woody, Bacardi, Fady, Skydy, and Sundi. I also use Fantasy Calendar to actually create a custom calendar for the campaign. I use this concept of the Great Wheel of Rebirth, where Shar has created this kind of thing where as people die and they go up in they go they get like moved to a different realm from the prime material, from the human realm as I call it. They go up, and they do things that are good. They eventually join the celestial realm, and joining the celestial realm is so much about being like this amazing good vibe and just like pleasure and like feeling good that they kind of accidentally grow attachments and rescind their status and go back down. And the ninth level of hell if you end up going down there, because you work so much in um, protecting the human realm from being attacked by the Abyss of Dreams and things like that, that you end up doing good enough that you kind of go back up to being in the human realm. So the whole point is to like eventually funnel all souls back to the human realm, and this kind of like endless um, infinity symbol of like where you're going and what you're doing with your life. Um, this also allows a character who dies to reincarnate and then quote unquote join later. I have what I call the Sidekick Plus system, where players using the social events part of what I designed to gain social points, and using those social points to modify their sidekicks or special NPCs that have joined them. And they get, like, let's say they have a mascot sidekick that has certain base levels and hit dice and walking and certain abilities here, and then when they can have it either be a cheerleader or have it like have a special attack that requires them to use a reaction. So you have their initial sidekick for mouse and sidecat and mouse and mascots, which lets them like set up like attributes and movement and attack options for them. And then as they gain more points, they lets them give them like feats, increase their hit dice so they're tougher, increase their movement, and give them additional things. And this is on top of just regular sidekick stuff that you would get from expert spellcaster or warrior. Let's see here. There's also like a list of like acquaintances and stuff that the players have made, and then I have my crafting system, which is it's a whole thing. The most complete one I have is the beer, where they get warts, hops, and sugar, and combine them. Take It takes a month in game to brew. And when they roll for success at the end of those 20 days, they get a bunch of beer. And when they drink the beer, for example, let's say you go, they have malts and grains and adjunct grains. So all of these are the things that the beer does. Like, for example, Maze here says that when someone tries to deal psychic damage, you gain advantage on the save. And if you do save, you can use a reaction to reflect the number of d8 damage back equal to the hops bonus value. Okay, so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to make a maze-based beer. And then the hops, I'm going to use, let's say, I'm going to use green tea hops, which will give me disadvantage on saves against poisons and diseases, but it's 5. So I get to reflect 5d8 psychic damage back when somebody tries to deal psychic damage to me, and all that'll happen is that I'll have disadvantage against poisons and disease, right? And we're going to use coconut palm sugar, which will allow us to use the bonus 3 times within 90 minutes. So now I have beer that, if I'm fighting something that does psychic damage to me, up to 3 times within an hour and a half, I'll be able to send that back to them. And, yes, I'm drunk during that time and I have disadvantage on poison and disease, Uh, but that's 15d8 reflected psychic damage. Don't be attacking me with your psychic attacks, you mind flayer. You know, that's the kind of thing that I have the players crafting. Have an overly complicated. So like for scrolls, for example, you can make a scroll. It can take like a day to make like up to fifth level scroll, and depending on the paper and the ink you have bonus points that you can use to boost that scroll's spell that you have on there. So you can have a scroll that is cast a spell bigger or has increased range or something because or you can make the spell a bonus action to cast um, if it's an action cast spell. So that's the kind of stuff that you can put on your scroll and just have like have that kind of thing be like you'll prepare a bunch of scrolls so that when you're out you're not just using your regular spells. Um, then I have like special gathering, like hiring people to go gather materials for you and harvesting and the DC of harvesting different things. Um, and when you're crafting things, those different things apply for different. Yeah, it's really overly complicated. Um, this is probably what I've spent most of my time kind of creating for my players, so that they can craft like a ring, have it like how is the ring set, what kind of gems you have on there, if it's made of wood, how that affects or what that gives you access to the like do you can't do certain effects if you don't have a certain kind of wood or a certain kind of metal, um, and then you can't and then you have like the gems and those gems have different things that they affect and different colors that they mean, um, and so when you're putting charges on a ring you need it to have a gem or a nugget set into it, and it just can't be a plain ring, and the charges that you can put on it, you can do things like giving yourself an extra bonus action, but it has to be either a gem that's gray or the ring has to be made out of juniper, or else you won't be able to spend the 10 points to be able to do that. And so that's like the kind of crafting that I have and the kind of magic item stuff that I have in here. And then finally, I write news articles that they get to read. Um, and I write it in the voice of two different reporters. There's Morrison and Mia Uth. So Mia Uth has the headline, for example, Jeevan Vadajana, artist returns, submits work 10 years in the making, and untouched block of limestone. This was posted on Woody Nova 15th, 11/12. Artist Kevin um, Q. Swidu returns to submit his vast commission, a project that took him over 10 years to complete. Tidbit titled "You Get What Woo Pay For." The artist was paid in recognition for sculpting a statue in the likeness of Owen Hawke. After 10 years, he returns with the swab of limestone untouched except by time. This starting this startling commentary on aging is on display at the Hawk Estate in Upper Jivanvadajana. When reached for comments, KQK responded with a chattering of his jaws and pulling his hood tighter over his face. This is Meowth signing off. And then I had things like identical twins uncovered after having bodies swapped by beer drinking, where I have one of the character has a twin brother that they ran into, and so I did like a little cute story about the fact that they met each other and how like just unconcerned they would have been if they had swapped bodies. Um, or one of the players made a beer that lets you spit out fire and then sold it to the public. And so we have multiple fire accidents in various taverns and pubs. Many taverns have been caught on fire due to probably tricks by drunken patrons. An account of one of the customers says they only saw the flowers. Um, we're not sure what this means, but we have our best investigators on the job. This is Mia Uth signing off. Essentially, the you get to Spitfire, but if you fail to check, you just look at pretty flowers. So, but if you don't look at pretty flowers, you just accidentally get to just breathe fire on people. Um, but yeah, these are the kind of like different like news articles that I have about the different things that have been happening in the campaign, and yeah, that is sorry, that is what I've been doing with that. Let me boop. There we go. So yeah, thank you for listening to my introduction about like what I've been doing as a DM, and um, just please support me over on Coffee. I'd really appreciate it. I've put a lot of effort into um, just doing a lot of different things. I have more coming out. I have an entire ninja class that I've been working on. You can read more about my werewolf and weapon techniques. Honestly, all of these things are things that I have tested in the campaign. I, as a DM, have had no issues, kind of like, you know, quote unquote, dealing with it. And the players have a ton of fun with this. I honestly, the weapon techniques are probably the one thing that I think every DM should learn to accept. Because I was like, you rolled a natural one, you missed. We're gonna put a fumble table, and everything's gonna be so much worse for you. And I'm like, you can punish them as far as making things worse in other ways, and you want them to avoid things. And so I like to put it so that they have trouble, for example, if they want to heal, if they don't want to heal somebody until after they go down. It's like, well, that's not how your character wouldn't be like, yeah, no, you can die, I'll just bring you back. That's like really weird behavior, isn't it? So it's like, here's some punishment, don't let them die. Yeah, if you do and they take extra damage because you let them go down to zero, they're going to come back worse, and they're not going to be able to fight as well, and you guys are going to have to retreat. And you don't want to do that. You want to protect people. And so I have a lot of feats that kind of like slow that down. So although there's players that take feats that like give temporary hit points. There are certain subclasses like Twilight Cleric that are even stronger in my campaign um, than I think they would be in other ones, just because of how much shielding they provide, and things like that. But yeah, no, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and take care. See you around. See you around. I have more podcasts coming. Hopefully in February. Had to take a break for the holidays because my goodness, reality sucks. They suck balls. Reality. And you think, hey, sucking balls is really good, but sometimes you're just too sensitive. Sometimes you're just too sensitive to the ball sucking. I'm just saying. Just saying. Sometimes, you don't want to suck everybody's balls. You don't want to put everybody's balls into your mouth. And life does that. Just saying. Okay. Uh, yes. Demonetize me. Demonetize me, YouTube. I don't need your money. I just need the support of the people who watch me. All 1% of you. Alright, love you. Bye. I got. Where's my thing? Yeah. Alright. Oh, I forgot that I flipped myself here, so that makes the whole G-Jer thing funny. Comment, like, subscribe here and on Twitch, and support me on Coffee. Bye.